Okay. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We are back. Continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. Today, we are going to be dealing with Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 39. Bereshit, chapter 39, which is he was brought down to Egypt. He was brought down to Egypt. We are going to go ahead and begin to discuss chapter 39 of Bereshit. It's interesting when we look at these various chapters that, when we think about the Torah, we think about the 5 books of Moses. The Torah is, the book of the law. However, when we think about the law, we don't even get into the actual laws, statutes, and commands until basically halfway into the second book of the Torah. And so when we look at Bereshit, when we look at Genesis, we're dealing with a book which is essentially history. It's a book that's dealing with, a narrative of something that happened, right? And so when we look at this narrative, this book of history, we're forced to try to gain some type of spiritual understanding by, what, from the actions and the ways that the people within the story react. Right? Up until this point, we don't have a law that's been codified to say that this is what the Most High wants. What we have is the Most High who has declared a particular family to be his chosen, and the people that come from that family, become the chosen people. We know that the Most High, based on what we find after, we're able to look backwards and see his character kind of embedded into the ways that the people behave, in these various accounts. And so when we look at, for instance, this chapter today, we have the account, what happened, and understanding it kind of on that level in terms of being an event that happened. But then we have to be able to look at, kind of beneath the surface to kind of gain some type of understanding as to, the spiritual significance of the ways and actions of the people within the account. And so that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to go ahead and read through the 39th chapter of Bereshit. You put that up on the screen here. There we go. And go ahead and read that for us nice and loud, starting with the first verse there.
Genesis 39. It says, and Yosef had been taken down to Mitzrayim, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, a Mitzrayan, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. And it came to be that Yahweh was with Yosef, and he became a prosperous man, and was in the house of his master, the Mitzrayan. And his master saw that Yahweh was with him, and that Yahweh made all he did to prosper in his hand. So Yosef found favor in his eyes and served him, and he appointed him over his house, and gave into his land all that he had. And it came to be from the time that he and it came to be from the time oh, I lost myself. And his master saw that Yahweh was with him, and Yahweh made all he did to prosper in his hand. So Yosef found favor in his eyes and served him, and appointed him over his house, and gave into his hand all that he had. And it came to be from the time that he appointed him over his house and all that he had, that Yahweh blessed the Mitzrayan's house for Yosef's sake. And the blessing of Yahweh was on all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left in Yosef's hand all that he had, and he did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. And Yosef was handsome in form and handsome in appearance. And after these events, it came to be that his master's wife lifted up her eyes to Yosef and said, "Lie with me." But he refused, and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has given into my hand all that he has. No one is greater in this house than I, and he has not withheld whatever from me but you, because you are his wife. And shall I do this great evil and sin against Elohim?" And it came to be, as she spoke to Yosef day by day, that he did not listen to her, to lie with her, to be with her. And it came to be on a certain day, when Yosef went in the house to do work, and none of the men of the house was inside, then she caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and fled, and ran outside. And it came to be, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, that she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, "See, he has brought in to us a Hebrew to mock us. He came in to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And it came to be, when he heard that I lifted my voice, that he left his garment, and he fled, and went outside. And she kept his garment with her until his master came home. And she spoke to him these same words, saying, "The Hebrew servant whom you brought to us came into me to mock me." So it came to be, as I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled outside. And it came to be, when his master heard the words which his wife had spoken to him, saying, "Your servant did to me according to these words," that his displeasure burned. Then Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the sovereign's prisoners were confined, and he was there in the prison. But Yahweh was with Yosef, and extended loving commitment to him, and he gave him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. And the prison warden gave into the hand of Yosef all the prisoners who were in the prison, and whatever was done there was his doing. The prison warden did not look into any point that was under Yosef's hand, because Yahweh was with him, and whatever he did, Yahweh made it prosper.
All right. Very good. Very good. So let us go back here to the top. Okay, so looking at what we see over here with this portion here, he was brought down to Egypt. Yosef, of course, is the he here. Yosef was brought down to Egypt. And so we see over here, if we look down here, let's see here. In verse 3, read again for us, verse 3 here.
Verse 3. And it says, and his master saw that Yahweh was with him, and that Yahweh made all he did to prosper in his land, in his hand.
Okay, very good. So, just looking at this, we see here this kind of is, well, not kind of, this is about Yosef, right? So the context here, Yosef being taken down, Yahweh, was with Yosef. In verse 3, his is Yosef, and the master, of course, is this Potiphar person, right? This officer here of Pharaoh, right? And so, based on the way that Yosef, behaved, the things that he did, and the things that came about, as a result of the things that he did, his master was able to see that Yahweh was with him, right? And he was able to understand that his master Potiphar was able to make the connection between these blessings, right? He made the connection between the prosperity, and he equated these blessings to have come from his God. Right? He didn't attribute these blessings to his own God and say, my God is blessing you. But he knew that, somehow he knew that the blessings that Yosef was receiving was a result of Joseph's connection to his God. They may not have had a proper understanding of the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As far as they understood, there were many gods, right? There were many gods as far as they were concerned. But when we look at here, again in verse 3, we see that in some way, Potiphar was able to understand that Joseph's God was, in fact, blessing him. And so it's interesting that, when we look at this and, again, thinking about the fact that this is, this narrative that's being given to us, these things that these people historically have done, and we have to go back and learn from these situations. So here we're able to see that, the Yosef, in order for Potiphar to have some type of understanding of Yosef receiving blessings from his God, we will have to be able to look at Yosef and understand that, like, he's not kind of imposing the thought of a God on Yosef, right? Yosef, according to his actions, has made it clear to those around him that he serves a particular God, right? It's not a mystery, right? It's not something that he has to, that Potiphar has to kind of figure out, right? He looks at Yosef, he watches what he does, and based on his actions, he understands that he has a God, and his God blesses him. And so he's a representative. We see that Yosef is a representative of his God. He's not this secret that he has with himself, Yosef, I'm saying. He doesn't have this secret life that he lives, right? He doesn't, the things that he does, he let it be known that, this is my life and I live for the Most High, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so it's interesting that when we think about, the way that we live, it's important for us to be able to make sure that we are not closet Israelites, right? We serve the true and living Elohim, and we're not just quote unquote good people, right? But we're followers of Yeshua HaMashiach, who is in fact our master, right? And he is the reason why we have life. And so it's interesting that when you look at this example here, when we look at Potiphar, who is this heathen, he's this heathen, Potiphar is, and he is able to see the life of Yosef and understand that there is a connection that he has with his Elohim. Not so much that he wants to follow after Yosef's God, by the way, because of the kind of thought process that they had, that there was many gods, right? There's many gods. He can have his, and I'll have mine. His may bless him, but I guess he believes that he is in the position that he's in because his God blesses him. I want to go over to, let's go over to Matthew here. Let's go over to Matthew. Okay, let's read here. Let's go up here. We want to look at 45. Let's just go up just for context. Read 43 down to 45.
Matthew 5:43. You heard that it was said, "You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy." But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those cursing you, do good to those hating you, and pray for those insulting you and persecuting you, so that you become sons of your Father in the heavens, because he makes his sun rise on the wicked and on the good, and sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous.
Okay, so first of all, when we look at these verses here, we understand that the Most High has certain expectations that he has for his people. He has certain expectations that he has for his people. He said, Yeshua saying here, love your neighbor. Right? He's saying here, love your enemies. Bless those that curse you. Do good to those that's hating you. Pray for those insulting you and persecuting, so that you become sons of the Father in the heavens. But then he has this part over here is what we wanted to kind of deal with. This part over here where he says his sun rises on the wicked and on the good. He sends rain on the righteous and on the unrighteous. And so when we think about the idea of, first of all, when we look at Yosef and his relationship that he has with his Elohim, and not only that, but what others visibly see in terms of this idea of him looking at his God and them, but him able to still have his own gods, quote unquote. The Most High, our God, actually blesses and allows blessings to fall on both the righteous and the wicked. So it's not like the Most High is blessing Yosef and then these other people's gods are blessing them. It's the same Elohim that's allowing for all peoples to receive things. Right? Whether you good or bad, whether you are right or wrong. Let's look at let's go to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 9 verse read verse 2. Let's see here. Just read 1 and 2 just so we 2 is what we want.
9 and 1. For all this I took to heart, even to search out all this, that the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of Elohim. No man knows whether love or hatred awaits him. It is the same for all, one event to the righteous and to the wrong, to the good and to the clean and to the unclean, and to the one slaughtering and to the one not slaughtering. As is the good one, so is the sinner. The one swearing as the one fearing an oath.
Okay, very good. Very good. So when we look at over here, we see that here. Let's couple that. Let's couple that also with his. Here, let's look at this also. Thinking about both of these scriptures together. Here, James 1 and 17. Read verse 17.
Verse 17 says, every good and gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no change nor shadow of turning.
Okay, very good. So we have to understand that these things are all, in fact, coming from the Most High. Okay? But, again, with the way that these people are thinking, with this idea of there being, there's many gods. They have their gods. They're good to them. We have our gods. They're good to us. Right? This idea that there are, in fact, many gods. I'm saying that this is hogwash. I'm saying that this is a bunch of malarkey. Right? There's one true and living Elohim. And all these other gods, little g, are fake. Right? They're not real. Okay? Here, let's look at this. We just looked at this scripture just a couple days ago, but it fits over here as well. Let's look at 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 2. Go ahead and start reading there in verse 10 down to 16.
It says, but Elohim has revealed them to us through his Spirit. For the Spirit searches all matters, even the depths of Elohim. For who among men knows the thoughts of a man except the spirit of the man that is in him. So also the thoughts of Elohim no one else has known, except the spirit of Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
And we have received not the spirit of the world, but the spirit that is from Elohim, in order to know what Elohim has favorably given us, which we also speak not in words which man's wisdom teaches, but which the set apart spirit teaches, comparing spiritual matters with spiritual matters.
Mm-hmm.
But the natural man does not receive the matters of the spirit, for they are foolishness to him,
He don't get it.
and he is
Understand.
unable to know them,
Mm-hmm.
because they are spiritually discerned.
Yes, go ahead.
But he who is spiritual discerns indeed all matters. But he himself is discerned by no one.
Go
For who has known the mind of Yahweh? Who shall instruct him? But we have the mind of Messiah.
ahead. Okay, so these people over here, specifically Potiphar, he don't understand the difference between Yah's blessings and luck. He don't understand the difference between the fact that the Most High, that the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is the only Elohim, right? He don't understand. He treats Joseph over here, yeah, like he's some kind of rabbit's foot or something. But it's interesting, even with all that, when you think about the fact that it's not enough for him to kind of forsake even the thought of these other gods, right? He feels like he could just keep Yosef around and use him in that way. But kind of something kind of as a tangent that this caused me to think about. When we look at our Elohim, right? And we know who he is, understanding that he is in fact the true and living Elohim. If we say, like I know some of these Israelite people out here do, that there are many gods, but I serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There's many gods. If you say that these other gods exist, then you affirm whatever it is that these gods are known for, right? If there's if these other whatever, I'm sure that these other gods have things that they made, and so yeah, according to the people, right? And so if you go ahead and then affirm those gods, then you also affirm all the things that are associated with them. And so we have these people out here, these, this well-known Israelite people out here who have this idea of henotheism, right? Where there's many gods, but I just serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But I don't understand, somebody put it in the comments, I don't understand how you can believe in these other gods unless you want to affirm whatever it is that they bring to the table. These people, I've seen people say, well, Israelites, we have the God of the Hebrews, and then if you are like a Vikings, they have the Zeus and all of that. If you're Roman, you got the Vikings got Odin, and the Romans, they got Zeus, right? And so you have all these different gods, but these guys made things, didn't they? And so how much of these things do you accept then, if you say this? And so it's a people. I don't think that people always think about all of and take things always to its all the way out to its conclusion, right? Because if I say that there is a Molech, right? I say that there is a Baal. Whatever those people say that he did, that he's able to do, that he has done, you take that away from the Most High when he said he's the one who makes it rain on the righteous and on the wicked. There's probably rain gods. There's a God of rain, right? There's a God of harvest, right? There's a God of fertility, right? But I'm saying that rightly, Potiphar understands that he don't have to accept this God of Yosef, right? He just keeps his Yosef's God kind of and uses it just like any other. He just puts them like on a shelf with the rest of them. Like the things that when I need good things to happen, I'm gonna come over here and deal with this little lucky charm that I have over here, and then for these other things, I'm gonna go and do this over here, not understanding that all good things come from the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not understanding that he is in fact the only true and living Elohim. But because of that thought process that he has, the presupposition that he's taking to the situation being that, there's many gods all over the place.
He had no problem with y'all.
No, he don't got no problem with him. He just add them to the list. He just add them to his list of gods, which is a problem, though.
For us.
It's a problem for someone who's trying to actually live a life in truth, because you're not thinking about, what goes along with accepting these other gods as being something that's real. And they go to scriptures where, the scripture tells us not to serve these other gods, and leave that as proof that there are other gods.
I mean,
Which it's not.
Other people have other gods, but that doesn't mean that they have power and that they're real.
That they're real. And again, when you accept their existence, like how much of that existence are you accepting?
Yes.
Right? Or are you kind of deciding which parts of them is real? It's just we don't think about these things. Here, let's go over to Exodus.
We just got, I don't know, people were just extra.
You saying it's extra, but
They are extra.
I feel like extra.
I mean, they got the whole.
I feel like extra is a good thing.
They've accepted the whole
But
Book
they-
of Mormon. Like, I mean, it's just they just.
You have some people. That's what I mean. But I don't know if extra is the right word that we're using here, because extra seems good to me, and this is far from it. Right? Let's go to Exodus 23. I want to read 13, but just keeping it in its context, let's go up. Here, go up to 10.
Oh, Africa.
To 10, it says, "And for 6 years you are to sow your land, and shall gather its increase. But the 7th year you are to let it rest, and shall leave it. And the poor of your people shall eat, and what they leave the beasts of the field shall eat. Do the same with your vineyard and your olive yard. 6 days you are to do your work, and on the 7th day you rest, in order that your ox and your donkey might rest, and the son of your female servant and the sojourner be refreshed. And in all that I have said, you need to take heed. Oh, and all that I have said to you, take heed. And make no mention of the name of other mighty ones. Let it not be heard from your mouth.
Read 14 with that too.
It says 3 times in the year you are to celebrate a festival to me.
Okay, interesting. So when we look at these verses here, I wanted to read it in context just so we get an understanding of what's going on. Because why is this in here? Why is this 13 in here? Because it seems like it's going off kind of on this other thing over here. But when we look at what it's saying, and in all that I have said, in other words, the stuff that I just got finished saying, like this is not some type of parenthetical interjection that's not directly connected to the things that's around it. It said all of that, what it said, and then it gets down to 13, and it says this over here, all that I have said, take heed of it. And then he says, and make no mention of the name of other mighty ones. Let it not be heard. Now, we might take this and just use it by itself. And people have done this. They take this and they use it by itself, and then they don't even want to say Lord. Because that's Baal. And that's some name of some mighty one. And he said, make no mention of the name of the other mighty one.
Or the days of the week.
or
the months.
Or the myriad of things that you could sit up here and attribute
or
to
the word the.
these other. There's such a list. There's a long list
You can't say the.
that you can't even begin to talk about. But in the context, though, he said, "In all that I have said to you, take heed." He don't want you to take these things that he has done, that he has established, and then give these other guys credit for it. He's so on topic. He's so on topic. He didn't go off topic in verse 13 and then jump back onto it with 14. This is all one statement here that he's making. This stuff that he's saying, this things that he has done, don't sit up here and try to add in these other gods into the things that I have done. And so, if we want to sit up here and agree with the idea that, yeah, there's other gods, we're people, we have our God, them as people, and they have their God, and everybody's real. But I believe in this God. But I'm saying that just by very virtue of you sitting up here dividing this thing up like that is making you diminish. You're diminishing the true and living Elohim. And you're saying that, he does his little thing that he does for his people over here. But these other ones, they got their thing. They made these people. They give good things to those people. Meanwhile, the Most High just says over there in the verse that we just looked at that he makes it rain on, Yeshua said it's red letters, he makes it rain on the righteous and the wicked. And so we can't fall into this thought process that these people of old had. Right? Because it's causing us to misrepresent, first of all, the true and living Elohim. And it's causing us to big up these pagan gods and give them credit that don't belong to them. What does this say over here? What's this comment over here say? Yes, Joseph was set apart by Elohim to show the power of the true and living power. Yosef held Elohim in high esteem and suffered his fate with humility. What are these verses here? Let's see what you got over here. Jeremiah 29 and 7. Let's see what this says here. Jeremiah 29 and 7. 7. What's that say? Jeremiah 29 verse 7. What's that say right there?
Verse 7. It says, "And seek the peace of the city where I have exiled you, and pray to Yahweh for it. For in its peace you have peace." 8.
I don't know what the connection is there. Let's look at First Timothy. Let's see what that is. So we can 2, 1 through 4. What's this say here?
1 through 4.
2.
Oh, 2, 1 through 4.
1 through 4.
2, 1 through 4 says, "First of all, then, I urge that petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgiving be made for all men, for sovereigns and all those who are in authority, in order that we lead a calm and peaceable life in all reverence and seriousness. For this is good and acceptable before Elohim our Savior, who desires all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth."
Okay, yes. Oh, here, add 5 to that right there.
5 says, "For there is one Elohim, and one mediator between Elohim and men, the man Messiah Yeshua."
Okay, very good.
Gates.
So it's interesting to understand that there's various different peoples, right? But they all need to be connected to the true and living Elohim. And so Potiphar, he's kind of on the right path in terms of trying to keep Yosef in his corner. But he's the part that he's missing is the fact that he needs to understand that this thought of having a different God for everything, right, is it's a fallacy, right? Because there's Joseph here actually serves the one true and living Elohim. Okay, so let's go back over here to Genesis here, Bereshit, and let's drop down to verse 5 here. All right, read verse. Let's see, 5 here.
It says in 5, "And it came to be from the time that he appointed him over his house and all that he had, that Yahweh blessed the Mitzrayim's house for Yosef's sake. And the blessing of Yahweh was on all that he had in the house and in the field."
And so it's interesting, we see over here, that, he is in fact reaping the benefits of the fact that Yosef here is with him, right? It's interesting when we look at Yosef, who, when you think about his story and what's going on in his situation, things are really stacked against him, right? He got rejected by his brothers and sold, to these people, thrown down in a pit to be found just by some, random people to take and do with him what they will, and yet and still he is able to remain faithful to the Most High. Somebody could look at Joseph in his life and think to themselves, he's what's so blessed about his life, right? He was thrown in a pit. He was sold into slave, like he's a slave. He was free, and then he just put into this slavery for what? But it's interesting when we look at the path of Yosef and not only see a picture of Messiah, but we also are able to see with his life also the picture of those that follow Messiah. Mm-hmm. Joseph has a particular calling on his life, right? That and this came from the Most High. We haven't seen the manifestation of those dreams that he told to his father and to his brothers come to pass, but we know that this was something that came down from on high. And it's interesting when we look at his kind of his process, his the arc of his life, that he has this kind of as he's had this this call, this appointment that was connected to his life, the path to get to all of that really started with a plunge into a pit, literally and figuratively, right? And when we think about the words of Messiah, when he says, if you want to be a disciple, you want to be my disciple, then pick up your torture stake and follow me. Right, the first ingredient, that we have in our recipe of discipleship with Messiah is sacrifice. Right, and sacrifice is really a picture of death. Right, he's asking you literally to give up your life and live a life that's unto him. And so it's interesting when we look at Joseph, who sacrificed his life as sacrifice. We're not saying that he sacrificed his life, but his life was sacrificed. He didn't choose.
He didn't choose the path.
He didn't choose the way in which this path is being carried out, right? But I'm saying that we see in it, the diminishing of himself.
Yes.
Which is an interesting kind of a parallel, right? And so also when we look at his position here, it's interesting that for him to be this slave, this person who kind of is the house runner of this officer here, Potiphar, read verse 6.
And he left in Yosef's hand all that he had, and he did not know what he had, except for the bread which he ate. and Yosef was handsome in form and handsome in appearance.
I feel like that sometimes. Somebody asks me things about, what I pay for things. I don't know. I have no idea.
But you do feel that way.
I don't know what goes on. I don't know. I go to work and somehow money comes into my account, and I have electricity, I have, a house and pay a mortgage and all these things. I don't know how these things got cars, and I don't know how the bills get paid. I don't even know how much it costs. Somebody asked me how much I pay for electricity. I said, I don't know. I think less than $200. I think. I don't know. I don't even know. Right? Because I just, I have someone who takes care of all that stuff. I don't know what goes on. And so it's the same.
Until the lights got turned off.
The same thing is true. When you think about this, when you think about this, when you think about this life that that Potiphar lives, he has someone that he trusts in charge of all of his things, of his day to day, and he don't even think about it. It says that he don't even know what he had except for the bread that he was eating.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the person that's next to the ruler of the nation. He don't know what he got. He don't know where it's coming from. All he knows is what he sees right in front of him.
Right on his plate.
And so when we think about the amount of trust that is necessary in Potiphar what he has for Yosef, this is, he don't got to think about anything. There's nothing that he has to think about because of the fact that he has someone here to take care of it. Okay, so this speaks to the level at which Yosef controlled his master's affairs. The amount of trust that he had for Yosef was great. Right? Which actually speaks to why he was in such proximity to his wife. Right? Because when we think about these high-ranking peoples, the idea of eunuchs was, first of all, if you're going to have these men walking around your loved ones, your wife or your daughters, or even your, these people in high ranking, they had, wives and concubines and things. I can't have my servants sitting up here messing around with my wife or my daughters or my concubines. So they would just sit up here and cause these people to be eunuchs, right? But he has so much trust for Yosef that he didn't do that. This is something that these people did, all the time. This was like a practice that they did. But he didn't make Yosef a eunuch because, again, it's able to show you the level of trust that he had for Yosef. Right? So, in spite of the fact that when we see over here in verse 6, as we read, that he was handsome in form and handsome in appearance. It speaks about actually his mother in the same way. Let's go over to Genesis. Hold on a second here. My cursor is locked. It's trapped. Hold on a second here. I don't know how that's even happened. Hold on one second here. Oh, that's why. Okay, here we go. Genesis 29. Read verse 17 there.
And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel's was beautiful of form and beautiful of appearance.
Okay, so when we look at Joseph, he takes after his mommy, right? He was beautiful in form and appearance. Right? That's what it says. Just like, and so again, when you think about him and the level of trust that Potiphar had for him, it's interesting that he still allowed him to have free reign. He didn't know what Joseph was doing in his house. He didn't know. He didn't know anything that he was doing. He just know that Joseph was taking care of it. And he don't know how things even came about. He just knew that Joseph was taking care of it. He allowed for this foreign servant that he acquired to be around where his wife is, and didn't give two thoughts about it. Okay, so let's go over to.
I just think about.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I always think about that. The one guy who he wanted his wife to come here, and he was like, "But she's just so beautiful," and like, remember?
Yes.
I I was like, I need to see what she looked like. If she's that beautiful that you're like, oh my goodness, like I don't even want her to go anywhere. You know what I mean? It's just interesting how people are, but
I know.
so maybe he should have been thinking about his wife being around that handsome guy.
Or maybe he just had trust of the people that was here that nothing will happen. All right, let's drop down to read verse 7 through 9 again. Hold on.
Mm. 7 through 9. And after these events, it came to be that his master's wife lifted up her eyes to Yosef and said, "Lie with me."
You crazy?
he-
Nasty thing.
But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not know what is with me in this house, and he has given into my hand all that he has. No one is greater in this house than I, and he has not withheld whatever from me but you, because you are his wife. And now shall I do this great evil and sin against Elohim?"
Okay, so it's interesting when we look at Yosef and his response and the things that he brings up here, right? First of all, he speaks to her in what she's able to understand. You know, she's obviously this heathen, right, who doesn't have any thoughts about righteousness at all, right? And so he speaks to her. He speaks to her on her level, right? When we see verse 8, right? Look, he says, "My master does not know what is with me in this house." My master don't know what's going on. Why would you sit up here and try to move into this type of betrayal against your husband, against my master? Right? He tries to appeal to the thing that she is able to understand in regards to Potiphar, right? But then he gives the real reason, right? That reason was just for her, right? For him to bring up Potiphar, he respects his master. He understands that he has a particular duty in the house. But I'm saying that response was for Potiphar's wife. But the real reason why he's not sitting up here doing the things that she's trying to get for him to do, because he said, "I shall not do this great evil against Elohim." He's not saying that he don't want to do this bad thing against Potiphar. The real reason why he is doing what he wants to do and not what she wants to do is because of his relationship with Elohim. He don't want to sin against the Almighty. And so it's interesting when we think about, the things that we do, right? There's many reasons that we're able to come up with, as it relates to why we do this or that. But at the end of the day, the thing that trumps everything is the fact that we need to be living our lives according to the will of the Father. Right? He is the reason why we should be doing anything. Like all the things that we're doing, we need to be doing those things unto the Most High. And when we live our life thinking about things in that way, I think it verifies the idea that the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. We begin to understand what it is to walk in wisdom when we understand who the Most High is, and where we stack up against Him. When we understand that the Most High is the creator and sustainer of all things, and that He is the Elohim of the heavens above and the Elohim of the earth beneath, and that there is none beside Him. When we have this understanding, it should in fact shape our behavior. And it causes for us to be able to walk in a respect and have a sense of responsibility and understand the idea of honor that we have for Him in our lives. Which we're able to look and see that Potiphar's wife, she didn't have any she had no respect for her husband. She didn't have no respect for their little petty gods, whatever type of morality was connected with whatever kind of gods that they had. I don't know if God do these foreign gods, is morality part of their situation, or they just do things for people. I don't even know how that works. I don't even know.
You kids know about the the Romans?
So.
Was there any morality in them?
Not really.
No, they say there's no morality in them.
Well, it shows. It
I
shows.
don't know about the Egyptian one.
It shows,
The
right?
Egyptians had a whole bunch of stuff though.
They had gods for everything. But apparently, morality, some type of law, righteousness, is not something that's connected with their things that they did.
She was so shameless.
Right. She had no shame. There wasn't no shame in her game. She she had no connection to anything even close to seeming right in this situation, with her chasing after this young Yosef, who was beautiful in form and appearance. Right? And she spoke to him day by day.
She's probably on his nerves.
Like she kept on with Yosef, trying to wear him down. Right? She was hopeful that if she keep on talking to him, maybe he would weaken, and maybe that he would cave in to her advances. Let's look over here at because there can be something that's good that comes from perseverance, right? And the idea of wearing people down for the things that you want. Here, let's look at that.
You have to look at the positive side of that.
Let's look at that from a different perspective, right? Because she tried to wear him down for some negativity and some.
She tried to take him down
and some sin, right? But let's look at persistence in another way.
Oh my goodness.
Go ahead.
Honestly, Moshe is very persistent.
Yes. Yes, unfortunately, that's true. Let's look at Luke chapter 18. Read for us, start at verse 1 down to verse number 8.
And he spoke a parable to them, that they should always pray and not lose heart, saying, in a certain city there was a certain judge, not fearing Elohim nor regarding man.
So the judge was wicked, Right? He didn't have no fear of Elohim. This kind of like this Potiphar's wife. She was wicked. She didn't have no fear of Elohim nor regarding man. Right? Good, keep on.
And a widow was in that city, and she came to him, saying, "Do right to me on my adversary." And he would not for a while. But afterward he said within himself, "Even if I do not fear Elohim nor regard man, yet because this widow troubles me, I shall do right to her, lest by her continual coming she wears me out." And the master said, "Hear what the unrighteous judge said. And shall Elohim do not do right by all means to his own chosen ones, who are crying out day and night to him and being patient over them? I say to you that he shall do right to them speedily. But when the Son of Adam comes, shall he find the belief on the earth?"
Okay, shall he find faith on the earth when he comes? Shall he find those that do right? So it's interesting that we see over here, we have this wicked judge and this righteous lady who wants something from the wicked judge. She wants righteousness from this wicked judge, and persistence is the thing that gets that for her. But it's interesting that the Yeshua kind of flips it around, where, he's calling for people to be faithful on the earth when he comes, and faithfulness that the Most High, through Yeshua, the faithfulness that he's looking for is those that are persistent in righteousness. It's necessary for us, and then he's like, is he going to be able to find those that are persistent in righteousness?
Small pickings.
Indeed. And so when we look around, we're able to see a plethora of examples of people that are persistent in wickedness. Case in point, Potiphar's wife. She's persistent in wickedness, but in her persistence in wickedness, we're able to also see the persistence in righteousness from Yosef, who's able to say, it don't matter how many times you sit up here and try to sit up here and trap me, you can come day by day and try to accost me, and you will not wear me down. And what Messiah is looking for when he returns is those that will be persistent in righteousness when he comes. And it takes a again, when we think about faith is steadfastness. Right? It's not stillness. It's not movedness just by itself. You could say that it's not, I don't know why I'm saying not movedness. But if you think about, I shall not be moved.
Unmovable.
He's talking about something that is in fact unmovable in the midst of things that move. Like, for instance, waters. I remember when we went to the ocean, right? We went down south and we went down and we stood in the ocean. And I stood there and I tried to be an immovable force as the ocean came crashing down on me, and it knocked me down every time. Salt all in my mouth and eyes in the Atlantic Ocean. I tried to be an immovable force against the ocean, and I lost that battle. Right? But when we think about faith, you know, the Spirit of the Most High dwelling on the inside of us gives us the ability to be immovable in places where we should easily be moved. And so from a carnal perspective, Yosef should have certainly been overpowered by the advances of Potiphar's wife. Oh, Potiphar won't even know. Potiphar's wife, you can have whatever it is that you want, is what his carnality would have, wanted for him to have been doing. But because of the fact that he had a connection with the Most High, it was able to strengthen him in his body and cause him to be able to do things that his body may have wanted to do, but what his spirit most certainly did not. And so as she was being persistent in trying to wear him down, he was being persistent in righteousness and not being allowed to be worn down. And so we kind of see these both sides of the situation, where we see the persistence on the negative side and we see the persistence that's necessary also on the positive side. When we think about, let's look over at, before we go back to Genesis, let's go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Let's see. We want to look at, let's see here. Well, let's go up some. Started in verse 19. I want to just get a little context here.
19. For though I am free from all, I made myself a servant to all, in order to win more. And to the Yehudim I became as a Yehudi, that I might win Yehudim. To those who are under Torah, as under Torah, so as to win those who are under Torah. To those without Torah, as without Torah, not being without Torah toward Elohim, but under Torah of Messiah, so as to win those who are without Torah. To the weak I became as weak, so as to win the weak. To all men I have become all, so as to save some by all means. And I do this because of the good news, so as to become a fellow partaker with it.
Okay, here's the meat and potatoes right here. Keep going.
It says, do you not know that those who run in a race indeed all run, but one receives the prize?
Ain't no participation things. We're talking about you winning, right?
No participation. Run in such a way as to obtain it.
I want to win. I don't just want somebody to say I was in the race. Like how people run the marathons and they just be like, well, at least I just finished.
Oh, why you guys talk to me like that?
Huh?
That's disrespectful.
You thought I was talking about you?
That's what I said when I ran in the
If the
marathon.
fits,
Let
them wear it. I wasn't even talking about you, but you felt like I was, huh? But this is what Paul trying to say over here, right? We not running just to be part of something great. We not running just to be part of something greater than ourselves. We trying to win over here, right? All right, keep on going.
I'm on 25. And everyone who competes controls himself in every way.
He said everyone who competes controls himself in every way. In every aspect of the situation, he's understanding what he wants at the end, and he's understanding what he's doing in the in between. It's interesting it's interesting when you, just for the little bit of fight training that I've experienced. When you think about, I've been in situations where, you're dealing with just an instinct. You're not thinking about anything. You're just reacting, just trying to come out on top. And then after receiving proper training, now you're kind of thinking about things as things are going on in terms of a fight, right? Where you're thinking about moves. You're like playing chess. I don't know what happened with my. Here we go. It's like you're playing chess. You're looking at your opponent. You're trying to understand what they're doing. All fast is happening. These things happening in your mind, right? Everyone who competes controls himself in every way. You're thinking about your every move as you go.
You're professional.
It's not just, willy-nilly, right? You're thinking about every move as you go, and you're controlling yourself every step of the way, right? It's interesting that Paul is speaking about this in this way, because these things, they every moment, every step counts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Every step in the process counts. Right? Everything is calculated. Right? Nothing is just instinct. Right? You're intentionally doing this and that. Right? Keep on going. Now
It says, now they do it to receive a corruptible crown, but we for an incorruptible crown.
doing all of these calculated movements and motions for something that's going to wither away and die. But we need to do these same things for something that will never die. He said, therefore, verse 26, he said, therefore.
It says, I run accordingly, not with uncertainty. Thus I fight, not as one who beats the
He's
air.
not sitting up here shadow boxing. There's an opponent here. He's not just beating at the air. He's not running with uncertainty. The opposite is true. He's running actually with certainty in verse 27.
But I treat my body severely and make it my slave, lest having proclaimed to others, I myself might be rejected.
Paul's making sure. It's interesting, these words that he's using, right? Everyone who competes controls himself in every way. Therefore, he beats his body severely to make it his slave, lest he just sit up here and slip up and get into this situation that is unfavorable in the eyes of others, which causes him to actually be rejected while he's out here propagating the gospel of Messiah. And so think about Yosef. How Yosef supposed to be when he is the only example of righteousness in this place filled with heathens, and he was to succumb to the advances of this nasty lady. I'm calling her nasty. She was nasty. Right? How's he's not going to sit up here and allow for himself to be a bad representation of the true and living Elohim. He said, I'm out of here. And he ran with everything that he had. So much so that she was left standing there with his clothes and he was gone. Because he was able to control himself in every way. Let's go over to, before we go back to Bereshit. Let's go over to Psalm 62 and 6. Psalms 62. Oh, before we read that here, what's this comment I missed over here? Possibly like Tamar desired to found families in Israel, so that Potiphar's wife, she may have had foresight into being an ancestor of Joseph's lineage. Just wasn't sure how. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what that's saying there. Sorry. Okay, read for us verse 6 right here.
He alone is my rock and my deliverance, my strong tower. I am not shaken.
When we understand who the Most High is and what he does for us, understanding that he alone is my rock and my deliverance, my strong tower, these things that come against me, these nasty Potiphar's wives and all types of things that want to come and try to cause me to walk in a way that's contrary to the will of the Most High, I am not shaken, right? I shall not be moved. What does word mean right here? Mote, waver, slip, shake, fall, to be carried, to cast, to be out of course, to be fallen, to decay, to exceedingly fall, right? Moot, right? This could be to fall unto death, right? And so it's interesting when we think about, looking at Yosef over here and what it is that he shows us. He shows us the ability to stand in righteousness in the face of wickedness. Okay, let's go back to Bereshit. Bereshit 39. Let's drop down to read verse 11 and 12.
11 and 12. It says, and it came to be on a certain day when Yosef went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside, that she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside.
He was not having it. Right? Let's go over to Psalms. Let's look at Psalms 112. Read verses 5 through 7 there.
5 through 7. Good is a man showing favor and lending. He sustains his matters in right ruling, for he is never shaken. The righteous is remembered forever. He is not afraid of an evil report. His heart is steadfast, trusting in Yahweh.
Okay, very good. Let's see. His verse 5 says he sustains his matters in discretion. He will guide his affairs with discretion. This word here, the scripture says right ruling. This word is mishpat. Right? And so when we think about the idea of a discretion, we think about this word here, mishpat, right ruling, right? You're ruling rightly. Discretion is an interesting idea associated with wisdom, right? When we think about wisdom, wisdom, of course, is the proper use of knowledge, right? I can have knowledge of a thing, but when I don't carry that knowledge out properly, I'm not using wisdom, right? I can have the answer, but present that right answer in a way that is completely unpalatable to people, causing people to not even desire, accept that answer. The ability to be able to administer knowledge in a proper way is, in fact, discretion, which is something that comes along with wisdom. And so when we think about Yosef, right, he here, when we think about the discretion that he uses here is, escape. He needs to get away. He needs to flee, right? He can't stand here any longer, right? It don't matter that she took a hold of him physically. He still had it in his mind to flee, right? And so we're able to see wisdom here manifest in Yosef. Psalms 25 and 21. Let's look at that. Psalms 25, 21.
21. Let integrity and straightness guard me, for I have waited for you.
He said, let integrity
25.
and uprightness preserve me. Right? Because if we, in fact, walk in integrity, in uprightness, it will, in fact, preserve you. Let's just look at this backwards here. What this word mean here? What are we talking about here? Preserving. Not sar. To guard, in a good sense. To protect, to maintain. Right? If we want to be guarded, protected, maintained. In this case, we're talking about being protected from sin. Right? Uprightness and integrity actually protects us in that way. This word here we want to look at here is tome. Completeness. Prosperity, innocence, integrity, upright. Right? And so when we think about the idea of walking in completeness, when we think about the idea of walking in innocence and perfectness, morally speaking, right? These are all things that we receive when we deal with what we receive through the new covenant. Right? When we think about the new covenant, this is the Spirit coming and changing us from the inside. Right? So it's not a matter of us actually doing things, right? Because many people do things. People who don't believe in the Messiah are able to do this or do that. But the idea of actually being transformed on the inside, and us not sitting up here doing things from an external standpoint, but doing things from an internal standpoint, having a desire and a genuine want to walk in a way that's pleasing to the Most High, Yosef over here, he said that he was doing what he was doing because of the fact that he did not want to sin against the Most High. He could have went ahead and did what she wanted for him to do, and his master would never have found out about it. He could have went ahead and did that thing, and as far as he was concerned, I'm saying Potiphar, he wouldn't have known any better. But integrity is you living your life according to what you know the Most High is able to see. Right? Because you could secretly get away with all types of things in the eyes of man. But integrity is you walking perfectly in completeness and not necessarily dealing with what man can see, but dealing with what the Most High is able to see. And again, this is what it is to be walking in righteousness and walking in wisdom. Let's look over at 2 Corinthians here. Because we see when we think about Joseph and his actions, both things would have been true here. 2 Corinthians 8. Read verse 21.
21, for we provide what is right, not only in the sight of Yahweh, but also in the sight of men. 22?
No. So we see over here, we see both things are true over here in terms of what it is that Paul is referring to. In terms of we want to be right not only in the sight of the Most High, so we not only want to be doing the things that's right in the eyes of the Most High, but also in the sight of men. And that's exactly what we see over here in Bereshit with Yosef. He wasn't trying to sin against the Most High, but he also mentions Potiphar as well. Like, this man trusts me. I can't sit up here and do this thing, but moreover, I can't sin against the creator and sustainer of all things. Let's go over to Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 13. What's verse 18 say?
18, pray for us, for we trust that we have a good conscience, desiring to behave well in every way.
We need to have a truthful desire to behave well in every way. You know, it's important, again, as followers of Messiah, to always understand that we are examples of Messiah. Okay, we have to be able to be sure that we, as representatives of Messiah, that we're always being representatives of Messiah. Mm-hmm. You know, there's people looking at you, and there's people who are only able to see righteousness when they look at you. We live in this wicked world, and they could always look around and see wickedness, right? But for some people, you are the only example of righteousness that exists. And so you have to be desiring to behave well in every way. You are in fact the standard. And you can't look at it and say, well, nobody's perfect, I'm just a sinner, saved by grace. Like, nobody's perfect. Don't look at me. There's only one person. That's what all the things that people got to say. But he said over here that we need to be desiring to behave well in every way. You are a representative of Messiah, and everything that you do needs to be a representation of righteousness. You can't be up here causing people to look at you and say, well, look at the life that this guy lived. Mm-hmm. Because you're the only picture of righteousness that they might see for some people. And then you can either cause them to have a kind of a lackluster idea of what righteousness is and say, well, I ain't got to be that righteous. Look at how this person is. Or you could cause a person to just not even want to live a life of righteousness at all because of them looking at you. Mm-hmm. And so when we think about Joseph and his situation with Potiphar's wife, he wasn't having none of this. He said, I'm out of here. I can't be bothered with this lady, this nasty lady, sitting up here to try to cause me to do this thing over here. All right, let's drop down over here to verse. Read for us. Let's go down to the bottom. Oh, wait a second. Let's go back over here to Genesis. Let's go all the way down to the bottom here. Read that verse 23.
The prison warden did not look into any point that was under Joseph's hand because Yahweh was with him. And whatever he did, Yahweh made it prosper.
And so it's interesting that we look at the results here. Because Joseph, who, he was in this situation in Potiphar's house, where he was prosperous. He was put in charge. He had position. He had trust, right? And then this situation happens where he ends up being put in prison. And still, even though he's in this situation where he's a slave, he's a prisoner, right? He's falsely accused of this thing that he didn't do. We're still able to see over here where the Most High is in fact blessing him still. And so it's interesting, kind of when we think about, again, what I talked about earlier in terms of looking at Joseph and looking at kind of how we're able to see the process that we as believers in Messiah participate in, as to where we have this destination that we're walking towards. But during the path, there's adversities that happen. There's things that happen in our lives that cause us to be in these uncomfortable situations. But yet and still, it's necessary for us to remain faithful to the course. We still have to make it to the other side in spite of what's going on in our situations. Let's go over here and look at and we see the results, right? Joseph refused to bend, to break in, during these advances by essentially this person who was his superior. Like in the, from a technical standpoint, she really should have been able to just tell him whatever she wanted for him to do, and him just do it based on the fact that that's his master, basically. She was somebody that was over him in terms of authority. But Joseph decided who was his authority, and his authority was the Almighty. And he refused to go against the will of the Father, despite the fact that the result of that, hurt him from a physical standpoint, in terms of him winding up in prison. He became he was already not free, but he caused for his freedom that he had to even be diminished even more. But let's go over to the Apocrypha here. Let's go to wisdom 3, verse 9.
That they that put their trust in him shall understand the truth, and such as be faithful in love shall abide with him. For grace and mercy is to his saints, and he hath care for his elect.
Okay, so when we think about this idea of trust, we think about this word of emet. We think about this idea of stability, certainty, trustworthiness, faithfulness, surety. It says, they that put their trust in him shall understand the truth. When we put our trust in the Almighty, when we make the Most High our strong tower, this is a way that we're able to allow for his character to manifest through us. And he, it says, has care for his elect. And so even though there are things that are going on, bad stuff is happening. Bad stuff will in fact happen. Mm-hmm. But the Father is still blessing in the middle. In the middle of the bad stuff, the Most High is in fact blessing. Let's go over to 1 Peter. 1 Peter 5. 1 Peter 5:8 through 5:8 through 10.
8 through 10.
It says, be sober, watch, because your adversary, the devil walks about like a roaring lion.
Your adversary waiting on you. And so if you don't have a mind that's not sleepy, and you're not able to watch, he gonna get you. Okay? Joseph, he could have just been over there just chilling with his guard down. Next thing he know, the nasty lady could have got him. Right? But he was sober and watched. Right? Because that lady, that devil, was there seeking out who she was able to devour. Verse 9.
Resist him, firm in the belief.
Hold on. I wonder how passive this word is, resist. Or is it something that must be positively done? What's this? He said, whom resist. What does word mean here? If I can click on it with my cursor, if I can find it. There we go. What does word mean? To stand against, that is to oppose, to withstand. Right? This is not a passive thing. You're intentionally doing this thing. Resist him. That is the devil.
And he will flee.
What does that say?
Knowing that the same hardships.
Hold on, read this part right here.
Firm in the belief.
Firm in faith. Resist the devil. Firm in faith. This is kind of like a double positive over here because faith is firmness. It actually is firmness. So he said firm in firmness. Keep on going.
Knowing that the same hardships are experienced by your brotherhood in the world.
You ain't out here just out here living this life that's hard by yourself. It's people out here that look just like you that's going through the same thing that you going through in your life. Except they doing it somewhere else. All over the place. So be firm in your firmness. Resist the devil because he out there watching you. And in some cases, the devil could just be your own carnal mind. Verse 10.
And in the Elohim of all favor, who called you to his everlasting esteem by Messiah Yeshua, after you have suffered a while.
Hold on a second. This is the kicker right here. This is the kicker. Read that again.
It says, and the Elohim of all favor, who called you to his everlasting esteem by Messiah Yeshua.
He called you to his everlasting glory. Elohim called you to his everlasting glory by Messiah after you suffered a little while. Himself perfect, established, strengthen, and settle you. But he said he called you to everlasting glory by Messiah after you have suffered a little while. When we look at Yosef, when we look at Joseph in this story, he was called to a particular glory. His glory involved his whole family bowing down to him, where he was glorified. He was this little son, this little brother, and he was glorified to a place of esteem high above them. But not before he suffered a little while. Don't you know that these things that Peter over here talking about is directed at you? That you have in fact been called to everlasting glory by Messiah, but not before you suffer a little while. And so all you people out there who want your life to be perfect, to be peaches and cream, I don't know why peaches and cream is like this thing that's like the epitome of goodness and happiness.
I don't even like pizzas all like that.
And what kind of cream is it? Is it like just heavy cream just poured into it? Is it whipped cream? What is it?
I like cream.
I'm lactose intolerant.
Like custard.
Me too, but I still like it.
But if you want your life to be perfect, then you got another thing coming. Because he said that he called you to everlasting glory after you suffered a little while. So where you suffering at? You need to get some suffering up in you. You need to look for that suffering. In fact, ask for some. Go ahead, ask for it. Go ahead. Because it's coming whether you ask for it or not. So you might as well accept it before it get there. So you ready for it. Hold on. Let me get you another one here. Let's go over here. Because Joseph, he showed us. Because he's a perfect example. He was called to glory. And then the next thing that happened is that he got thrown in the pit. He's not going to get to his glory without going through the suffering. Neither are you. James 1, 2 through 4. We coming to the end of this right here. Hold on. Go ahead and read verses 2 through 4.
James is packed heavy with all this. It says, "My brothers, count it all joy when you fall into various trials,
He said, count it all joy.
knowing that the proving of your belief works
Hold
endurance."
on. Wait a second. This is just, we need some of that William Shakespeare over here on this one. You know what I'm talking about?
Verily, verily.
Okay.
I know. Need some of that verily.
Hold on. Let's see what we got over here. Go ahead. Hold on. What we
Start
looking
from the
at?
top.
Verse 4.
But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire.
Perfect and entire. Why can't you just be perfect? He said you need to be perfect and entire. Wanting nothing. Keep on going.
It says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Elohim, that giveth to all men liberally.
Hold on. Wait a second. My bad. Verse 2.
Verse 2, "My brethren, count it all joy when ye fall into diverse temptations,
Yes.
knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience."
Okay, so the trying of your faith, the trying of your stability, the trying of your firmness, the trying of your steadfastness works patience. How many impatient people we got in the comments over? Just go ahead and put a 1 in the comments if you ain't got no patience.
I mean, I do have some patience.
Go ahead, put it in there. Go ahead. I should at least see 9 1s over there. Oh, somebody went away just right there. The 8. Let's see if we can get that down to 9. Faith, the trying of your faith, works patience. If you want patience, guess what? Your faith is going to be tried. That's how you get patience. If you impatient, you're going to be put in situations where you need actually patience to get through it. That sounds crazy. That's like that. Remember that commercial? I don't know what the commercial was for, but it went to talk about this person trying to get a job. How can I get a job without experience? How can I get experience without a job? It's like you need one to get the other. But if I want patience, I gotta actually use patience to get it. And the way that happens is the trying of my faith. Joseph, his faith, his steadfastness was tried. And right now, down in that prison cell, he needs some patience. Verse 4.
"But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing."
And read verse 5 too.
"If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Elohim,
Go ahead, ask for it.
that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to
Okay, the thing about it is that what we talking about over here when we deal with wisdom is that Ruach HaKodesh. Is that spirit of the Most High living on the inside of you. We want to talk about what is knowledge the right use of knowledge, that's wisdom. If we want to talk about the right use of knowledge in you, that's the spirit. So when we think about this wisdom, the right and proper use of knowledge, we're talking about the Torah being manifest in you. We're talking about the spirit of the Most High causing you to walk in the character of the Most High. If we look at Romans 8. Romans 8 and 4. What does it say right here?
That the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit.
We are able to have wisdom be manifest in our lives when we walk according to the Spirit, which is wisdom. We think about wisdom, it's not some other thing. Wisdom's not some other thing, and then we have the Ruach, and then we have the law, right?
Disconnected parts.
Right. The wisdom is the Spirit. And when we walk in the Spirit, the law is manifest in us because it's causing us to walk according to the character of the Most High. And so when we look at Joseph and we think about the ways that he lived, while he's living his life according to the character of the Most High, walking out a life in wisdom, we too need to walk a life in wisdom, but that life is called walking in the Spirit. Mm-hmm. Okay, lastly, let's go over to Ecclesiasticus, Sirach
4:11. Wisdom exalteth her children, and layeth hold on them that seek her.
Wisdom lifts up her children. Wisdom don't sit up there and beat down the children. Wisdom wants for her children to rise up, to be exalted, right? And so wisdom wants for her children to be blessed. And so when we think about the idea of the Most High dealing with us as his children, he chastises those who he loves. If you ain't getting no chastisement, then your daddy don't love you. Simple as that. If you just this little perfect little thing, and then you also unloved. Just so you know that. Okay, keep on going.
He that loveth her loveth life, and they that seek to her.
He that loves her wisdom. If you love wisdom, you love life. If you love her wisdom, the Spirit, you love life.
And they that seek to her early shall be filled with joy.
If you sit up here and early, not like in the AM, but like early in your life, you'll be filled with joy. Why? Because you're not dealing with all of the things that you did when you wasn't seeking her that you gotta live with for the rest of your life now. But your life could be filled with joy if you seek her wisdom, the Spirit, early. Verse 13.
He that holdeth her fast shall inherit glory.
If you hold her fast, we still talk about wisdom. Wisdom being the Spirit. If you hold the Spirit fast, you'll inherit glory. Guess what? Romans talked about the same thing. Those that he called, he glorifies. That's those who have that Spirit. Okay, keep on going.
And wheresoever she entereth, the Lord will bless. Elohim will bless.
That's what happened with Joseph. Everywhere he went, he was blessed. He was blessed when he was a servant in Potiphar's house. Even though bad stuff happened, he was blessed. And then he got put in jail, and he was blessed over there because he held wisdom fast. Okay, verse 14.
They that serve her shall minister to the Holy One, and them that love her, Elohim doth love.
Very good. Okay, so 15.
Whoso giveth ear unto her shall judge the nations, and he that attendeth unto her shall dwell securely.
So there's plenty of benefits to those who give ear to and serve wisdom. 16.
If a man commit himself unto her, he shall inherit her.
If we just think about what we just read over in James, he said that hold on. Hold on, what was that? Hold on 1 second here. James 1. Oh, and 5. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask, and it will be given to him liberally. Right? So it said over here, if a man commit himself to her and unto her, he shall inherit her. Same thing. If you ask for wisdom, if you lack wisdom and ask, he'll give it to you. You'll inherit it if you commit yourself unto her, and you will inherit wisdom.
Hell yeah.
His generation shall hold her possession. Now, this is the good part down here, verse 17. Read that.
For at the first she will walk with him by crooked ways, and bring fear and dread upon him, and torment him with her discipline, until she may trust his soul, and try him by her laws.
Okay, now we saw all the things that's all good that happens when you sit up here and desire after and seek after wisdom, right? But then it say down here in 17, but the first thing that's going to happen is that she's going to walk you by some crooked ways and bring fear and dread upon you and torment you with her discipline until wisdom, is able to trust your soul and try him by her laws. That's just like what it said over there with what Peter said. He said that you was called to everlasting glory by Messiah, but not before you have suffered a little while. This said the first thing that you gonna do is you gonna get walked by some crooked ways and see if you go ahead and walk in them crooked ways. Wisdom gonna take you right to the crooked paths and say, you go ahead down that way. It's gonna bring you right to a place of fear and dread and see what you do then. And torment you with beatings, with discipline. Until wisdom trusts you, and until wisdom has tried you by the laws. Look what the Most High did with Israel. He said, you're my people. You're my chosen people, called, set apart people. Here, come out here to this wilderness where I'm going to try you at. And that's what happened. And Israel came out better than what Israel went in. But they had to go through the wilderness. They had to deal with the trying and discipline.
Shed some weight.
Had to shed some of that dead weight. Right? And then verse 18.
Then she
18 and 19.
Then she will return the straight way unto him and comfort him and show him her secret.
It's going to, and the secrets. We talked about the secrets over there from 1 Corinthians, where there's secrets when you're separated from the Most High. But once you become joined to the Most High, you find out all the secrets. Same thing. Verse 19.
But if he go wrong, she will forsake him and give him over to his own ruin.
And so, lastly, okay, so when we think about Joseph and put this in perspective in terms of, this being something for us to sit up here and learn from. Joseph was put in this situation where he had to make a decision, where he had to stand fast on the word of the Most High. He had to stand fast on righteousness. And even though he faces these uncomfortable situations, even though he's in a situation where it seems like he's receiving curses upon him, in these places, he is living a life of blessings, even still. But he had a choice that he could have made. He had a choice to make. And the Most High didn't make him do nothing. He let him do whatever it was that he wanted to do. It just so happened here in this situation that he made the right decisions. But see, we need to understand that the Most High ain't gonna sit up here and just have you out here doing whatever, making you do what he wants you to do. He wants you to do these things out of love for him, because you could get to a place where he'll just let you do what you want to do. He'll let you do what you want to do. He said it right there. If you go wrong, he gonna give you over to your own ruin. Right? Let's look at this lastly, Romans 1:27. We're gonna end with this over here.
1:27.
Read down to 32.
20. Alright. It says, and likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman,
People crazy.
burned in their lust one toward another. Men,
So he gave Joseph the opportunity to go ahead and well, not this part in terms of the natural uses, but the lusting of his flesh. He gave him the opportunity to lust after his own flesh. This was the natural use, but still it's the same thing, right? Good. This is explicit. Wow.
it says, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meat.
Keep going.
And even as they did not like to retain Yahweh in their knowledge.
Hold on, wait a second.
And even as they did not think it worthwhile to possess the knowledge of Elohim, Elohim gave them over to a worthless mind to do what is improper.
So the Most High, when you sit up here, these people that he's talking about had a choice. Even as they did not think it worthwhile to possess the knowledge of Elohim. They obtained the knowledge of Elohim, but they didn't think of it as being something worthwhile to possess or keep. And Elohim gave them over to their own reprobate mind to do what was improper. But the exact opposite is what we see with Joseph. He had the knowledge of Elohim, and he, in fact, thought it worthwhile to possess it. And the Most High let him do what was right, because that's what he wanted to do. But the Most High wants for you to be able to make that choice. He's going to put you in a situation where either you're going to obey the lusts of your flesh and move away from him, or you're going to follow after the Spirit and you're not, you're going to do the opposite of what your flesh is calling for you to do. But keep on reading here, verse 29.
Having been filled with all unrighteousness, whoring, wickedness, greed, evil, filled with envy, murder, fighting, deceit, evil habits, whisperers, slanderers, haters of Elohim, insolent, proud, boasters, devisers of evil, disobedient to parents, without discernment.
Wait a second. Read that one again.
Disobedient to parents.
That's interesting. Where this is a list, and murder's on the list with disobedience to parents. Okay, keep on going.
Without discernment, covenant breakers.
Without discernment, we talked about discernment and put that in the category of wisdom and the spirit, right? So these people, at very least, aren't walking in the spirit. Maybe don't even have the spirit, right? Keep on going.
Unloving, unforgiving, and ruthless, who, though they know the righteousness of Elohim, that those who practice such deserve death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them.
Okay, very good. So when we think about the idea of knowing the righteousness of Elohim, we can't just be somebody who knows the righteousness of Elohim and aren't those that also practice the righteousness of Elohim, right? Because when we decide in our own carnal minds that we're not going to follow after the practices of righteousness, it says over here that those people all deserve death, right? And so when we look back at Joseph, when we look at the way that he behaved, his actions was based on the fact that he knew that he didn't want to let his father down, his father in heaven. And that idea, the fact that the fear of Elohim was the sole purpose of, the way in which he moved, caused him, yes, to have these physical consequences in terms of being tossed into prison. But, he could have been killed, right? But instead, he goes into prison and still receives the blessings of the Most High because he was faithful not to the Potiphar necessarily, but faithful to the Most High. And so it's just interesting when we look at these accounts of Joseph here in the scriptures, and there's not a law given, but through his actions we're able to see and look at characteristics that we find in his actions and apply those things to our lives. Okay, so that being said, is there any last questions, comments before we are done over here?
Yeah, I just wanted to use a Tomlinism.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Go ahead, because we got some people who's from Cincinnati over there who they're gonna hate on that.
The Most High wants volunteers, not hostages.
Yeah.
What did he say in that regard?
Basically, there was a player who wanted off the team because he wasn't getting player time, and he shipped him out. He's like, "Hey, we want volunteers, not hostages."
Yes, exactly. That's some wisdom from on high right there. He's not sitting up here trying to accost you and cause you to do something that you don't want to do.
Right.
He's going to present you with two options. One is way more favorable than the other, and all you got to do is just make the right choice. But he ain't sitting up here tying nobody's hands behind nobody's backs. And you know, the choice to me, it seems is easy. Do I want life or do I want death? I want life. And whatever it is that I must do in order to stay on the right side of things, that's what I want to strive to do, and that's what we all should strive to do. Okay, so that being said, I think we are going to be done for now. So we'll say to everyone, Shabbat Shalom, and y'all willing,
Shabbat Shalom.
we'll be back on next week to do it all over again.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.